to we're going to step into this, and I'm going to be a little bit transparent about this. This message was one of those ones that I was like, okay, a week ago, God, I feel like he gave me a singular word. And I was like, awesome. And I was like, this is going to be so easy, right? Rob's like, hey, can you preach, on the 23rd? You can do it if you want. I was like, yeah. I was like, Thanksgiving's coming up. Like, what is an easier topic than to pick being thankful, right? Like, wow, this is going to be so easy. It was not. So that's kind of where we've started. So to give you an idea, this is what I got. I got this thanks for giving. And I thought about it and I was like, oh God, that's incredible, man. Like, yeah, there's so many things. Like, do you mean like thanks for giving, like forgiveness? Or do you think like thanks for all the things you've given us? Like, oh, this is good. And then like Saturday, I'm still knocking like on the throne room and I'm like, hey, I still don't have a single word. What's going on? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, fine. We're just going to get into it. We're going to start and it's going to be great. So I pulled up one of my messages from youth and I was like, I'm just going to take this template and I'm just going to start copying over it so that I can just start writing the way that I lay my stuff out. And I was like, okay. And literally I felt in my heart just like this, hey, stop. I was like, okay. Now what? And he's like, you're looking at it. I gave you this, do that. And I was like, oh, I'm the one that's supposed to be thankful for what you gave. And I was like, all right. So this morning is going to be different than what I thought. So we're all along on a unique journey together. It's going to be incredible. But I'm very grateful for the youth and for the fact that God made this message something that's for the body now. So this morning, you have one job: breathe. That's all you have to do. So we're going to walk through some things today specifically, and I'd like to start out with an exercise. Not like Zumba, but I mean like just a thing that we're going to do together. Are we like beyond Zumba? Is that still a thing? I think we're past that. Is it still a thing? I don't know. Okay, bet. So as long as it still lands, we're good. Here's what I'd like you to do. Close your eyes. Remember, all you have to do is breathe. Now I want you to think about a time when you tried, when you lied, maybe when you showed pride, when you cried, when you laughed inside, when you laughed outside, when you spied, or you went down a slide. Or maybe think about a time, or think about something that you said, something that you fled, something that you read, a time when you pled, or something that you left unsaid, or maybe something that you forgot on your bed. And as you close your eyes, I want you to think about a thing that you did, that time that you hid, the once upon a time that never existed, or maybe when God spoke and created all of existence. Thinking about all this, and in all that we've said, when did you start thinking of God instead? In the beginning or at the end? God, this morning I ask right now, Lord, that you would just, God, evict CJ from this body. God, come and have your way. God, it has to be you. If it's not you, it doesn't work. So, Lord, just ask for you to do your work in this space. And God, just desire your presence this morning. And so, Lord, I just ask in the midst of this, Lord, anything I may say that's of me, God, just let it be unable to be remembered. Strike it from the record, Lord. And God, I ask that just your people receive what you have for them this morning, and they have hearts prepared to do so. I love you, Lord. Thanks, Dad. Amen. So I apologize if that was an anxious roller coaster for some of you, or perhaps no apologies needed because you thought about God from the very beginning. But like I said, today we're going to breathe. The very essence of who God is can be found in the very beginning. And John says it like this: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. So think about that. The very breath of God that was since the beginning of time is what has created everything in which we use to this very day. And sometimes we make that really small, right? So let me give you an example. Like sometimes we forget that like the chair you sit in has very base materials that God commissioned into existence by saying it was so. And then it took people that God knew before they were born to come and be able to fabricate the things that you have, to invent the things that then would fabricate the thing that you now sit in. Think about the fact that we are in the midst of a God that thinks that long term, that thinks in such a way that he has a good thing for you, even a soft chair to sit in. And sometimes it's easy to forget when you look back that that's the same God he always is. He is always provisioning in that way. He is always preparing in that way, and he never stopped doing it. So maybe even in that example, you're starting to think about just those little things, the little things that God has done. The fact that nowadays, when you pushed the button or turned the key over, your car started and you got here. Or at the very least, somebody else's did and they got you here. That's no small feat for anyone who's ever worked on a car. What happens between turning that key and everything coming on, there's a whole lot that takes place in that moment. But it's a fraction of a second. But then you're ready to go anywhere you want. That's the way God provisions for us. Moses wrote it like this in Genesis: "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." And then Moses gave us a snapshot of the creation moment when God created man, saying, "Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being." How many of you know that you have received the breath of life and you can come alive? You can. If you don't believe that right now, let me tell you, it is literally irrelevant at where you stand on the position of salvation. The fact that God still loves you enough to say, "I still have this for you. I still desire to give this to you." And maybe in the stance of salvation, like you have the Lord, you've made that exchange. You said, "Yes, God, all of me for all of you." And the reality is that, but we've not necessarily trusted in the breath that he gave us. So today, we're going to examine that a little bit. And we're going to start by talking about what it looks like to breathe God in again. That's where we're going to start. Because see, some of us need to stop holding our breath for fear of what God might breathe into us. Some of us are so afraid to take that next breath because you're like, God, I haven't recovered from the first thing you made me do. God, I don't know if I can take more. Because see, I feel like when I breathed you in, I lost something. And we see that as a bad thing. But see, if you go back to your moment of salvation, you'll remember that was the intention. That's what you asked for. You said, God, I choose to die to myself today. And I choose to take you on in your completeness because you will complete me. And you can do infinitely more with me than I could ever do with me. But then you breathe that in, and all of a sudden, the calls of God start coming in. All of a sudden, he's sitting at the table every day. He's sitting on the throne while you sit at the table, and you're sitting at the head of it going, I don't know if I want to give it up. And he goes, but you said you wanted me to lead. Did you mean it? Or was it a lie? Some of us need to stop hyperventilating and instead take deep breaths of his life for us into our lungs. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes when, I think about even preparing for this message, I don't get anxious a lot about what God calls me to do. But, when it's Saturday night, I'm I have to talk to a whole bunch of people, some of which I've not met personally. This is going to get real awkward if I go, I got nothing. Maybe somebody else has got the word and it ain't me. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. But it's incredible because in those moments, I've learned to find peace. And so my question is, in the midst of that, friends, when God calls you to something and it is the 11th hour, are we panicking or are we trusting? And maybe some of us, remember I love you. Remember some of us need to stop corrupting the breath of life God sends because we want to take in death instead. See, how many of you guys know, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's a whole lot easier to be like, oh man, that was dumb. Than to be like, oh, yeah, could have been better, but it wasn't too bad. How many times is it's too easy to sit there and just say, man, I'm just not good enough. Because it arrives us at a position of surrender, but it's the wrong surrender. It's the surrender that says, hey, the enemy gets to win instead of going, I may have missed it this time, but God's got a plan with it anyways. See, the reality is that there is no losing with God. You can't. If it's fully surrendered to him, if he has called you and positioned you to go and do something, the only thing you can breathe into that is life. The only thing you can take out of it is life. But the reality is, the enemy wants to convince you instead that when you think you failed, you actually did. But you didn't. How many of y'all have had a failure in your life and God turned it into something amazing? I am alive today because of that. I have a family because of that. And if God hadn't walked me through the things I've had to go through in my life, I can't tell you that I would stand here a living testimony to the goodness of who God is had I not failed along the way. Because, see, my worldly failures don't matter to my Father in heaven. He's not concerned. See, his eyes are on eternity, and so are mine. So I need y'all to join with me that we just fix our eyes today on eternity. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Don't even worry about what happened from this morning. If you were late, it doesn't even matter. You are right here, right now, where you need to be in this moment because he ordained it to be so. Eternity is our focus. And so we shift. If we're learning to breathe him in again, then what does it look like to maybe finally breathe him out? What can happen? There are some of us that have truly sat, waited, sought the Lord with our whole heart, and have received God's breath of life. Yet, once received, what did we do with it? What did we do with it? Some take in this breath and hold it like a get out of jail free card, only expelling it when you need to say sorry for a sin. Ow. Isn't it easy to be real faithful when you need forgiveness? Isn't it easy to be real faithful when you go, oh God, I went too far. I need you right now. But see, but what about the other 23 hours? What, did you need him then? Or were you enough? Did you still have enough life that he breathed into you to sustain you then? Or are you only taking in enough for that moment where you just need him in desperation? God's not interested in desperation. He wants habitation, which means your whole life. He wants it all, every moment. And maybe when you breathed it in, we bottled it up and we resell it to build up treasure on earth instead of treasure in eternity. You know, God does some pretty amazing things. Anybody received good gifts from God? Anybody? Yeah. How easy is it to forget that God sent it? It's easy. Right? I look at my family. It's easy for me in the moments when my littles are just not doing it to go, Lord, what is up? It can't be me. It's got to be them. And he's like, no, it is you because you're the perfect father for them or I wouldn't have given them to you. And having to sit and rest in that is where my prayers change from God, why, to God, let me be worthy of my kids. If you don't pray that, if you're a parent, if you don't pray that, I encourage you to start. God, give me what I need to be worthy of my kids. Be prepared. It's a whole lot like praying for patience. And for all of you that keep praying patience for me, stop it. It's not funny. But some of us hold that breath in so long that we forget where it came from. Allowing what was once given in life to be spoken in death. This is a big thing for me because I genuinely think that people that are giants in the faith, right? Like all these pastors that are out there, you guys probably listen to podcasts and things, and I don't. And these different things and these YouTube pastors that are out there that are doing great work. And then I think about the ones that are doing good stuff and then they fall. And I go, when did you allow what was given in life to turn to death? Not in condemnation. It's for me, see, these are things to study. These are things to learn from because I think God positions, again, failures can be seen as one thing, but I see them as things that shape our life. And so I see that if you want to call that a worldly failure for someone in faith, look, I'm not discrediting or taking away what God called them to do. I think God can still use them. I think God can resurrect them. I think God can give them new life and a new ministry and a new passion and bring life back into them. I do not smear them in any way, but it's a thing that God takes and goes, okay, but this example exists for you to know what can happen. Don't let the life I give you turn to death. Some of us in here, I think about it, and I'm saying in here, but like in the church as a whole, it's interesting when we come into the church, when we come into the house, and all of a sudden, it's a whole lot easier to talk about things of the world than things of God. It's interesting how in and around or over cups of coffee, how like you can walk through and you can just kind of catch some of the conversations that are happening in earshot, and you go, "That's why are we talking about that?" Or maybe it's even to the extent of, or you've been like me, where you've received something in the sense of where it's go time or almost there. And the way that the enemy brings something in is going, hey, just so you know, I got this call and this is what happened and this is, so we got to change everything. The thing is that life and life abundantly means that no matter what comes, it can't prosper. But you have to receive that in a personal way, in an intentional way, to be able to stand on it. So our call is to go to all the nations and declare the good news. The news of a victor back from a great victory. Because the good news, right, the gospel, right, if you've heard that. So the actual derivative of that is actually talking about, when it's saying good news, it's from the perspective of like a warrior on the battlefield coming back and giving good news of victory. That's the derivative where it comes from. So when you think about that, like, what a testimony when we talk about the gospel being the good news, because it's literally the ultimate victory of any battle that's ever been fought. So it has both contextual, scriptural truth attached to it. The news of our conquering Lord and Savior who hands us over our life, not once, but twice. We were created with it, it was taken from us, and then God sent his son, who was with him through all the first parts of creation, to come and live and die, to return to us the gift of life we were created with once again. That breath. What a God, that he would love us that much. So the question is, what do we do with it? Right? It's kind of where we started. So what do we do with it? It's easy. We save the world. Right? No? If it's time to finish the mission, and it is time to save the world, what does that mean? Do I mean the literal world? Do I mean that you can save someone? What kind of saving are we doing today? What about tomorrow? What about next week? No. Focus on this. Here's the target that I think God's positioned us to approach in faith and to show God to. Some of us have had an allergic reaction to the breath we've taken in because it wasn't God's breath they breathed. Maybe you know who or someone that I'm talking about. The people that say, God hurt me. God wasn't there. I'll never go back to church because they betrayed me. I'll never believe another Christian again because they lied. Some have had an allergic reaction to the breath they've taken in because it wasn't God's. The gift God gave you is not one to be taken lightly. Words have power. Hear that. Words have power. the power of life and death. How you say, what you say matters. And if someone has ever told you that's not true, you need to hear today, how you say, what you say matters. Your example can be the difference between heaven or hell for someone. Think about it. God gave us dominion over the earth. We just read about that. We are living beings because he said so. We are created in his image, and it's time to start acting like it. So breathe out life. The life we had no right to, but that Christ came back and died for. Who do you know who is rotting in a prison of despair, regret, worry, rage, addiction, depression, suicide, lust, or otherwise? Who do you know? In the midst of saying that, somebody probably came to your mind. Let's do this. God breathed life into us so we could speak to someone in despair and say, but God pulled me out, and he can pull you out too. To someone in regret and say, but God forgave me, and he can forgive you too. To someone who is worrying and say, but God was there for me, and he is there now, and he can work it for your good too. To someone who is consumed in rage and say, but God can speak to your storm like he did mine and make it obey and be still. To someone who is stuck in addiction and say, but God saw what I did and he still wants me and he still wants you. To someone who is ravaged with depression and say, but God showed me life. And life abundantly. And he has life for you too. To someone who is suicidal and say, but God loved me before this world ever had me. And he loves you exactly the same. To someone who is constantly chasing lust and say, but God showed me the love I wanted wasn't what I needed. And that his great love was enough for me, and the same is true for you. Friends, this Thanksgiving, maybe you try to breathe a little different. What would it look like if we returned to breathing in faithful relationships, breathing out forgiveness, and if we fulfilled the mission of showing love? Because to show the love of Christ is what will finish the mission. Showing CJ's love is not going to cut it. It's not going to work. It's got to be the love of God that shines through. It's got to be the evidence of what he's done in my life. See, that's how we save the world. That's how we do it, is to surrender. It's incredible. The act of saving anyone is from a position of this. It's from a position of going, my hands are open. And if my hands are open, it means, God, you can take things out and you can put things in. But if they're closed, you can't do anything with it. Because I'm not letting you. And God's a gentleman. And how many of you know he ain't going to break you open unless you're ready? It's not going to happen. But if you sit there and you say, God, yes. Maybe right now, in this moment. If you say, God, yes. Here I am. We do this in worship a lot. But we miss the meaning. The meaning is, Lord, it's all yours. Take it. Take it. And God, I am saying in this moment, I am prepared to receive whatever you have. I am prepared to receive. And I wonder how many of you throughout your day sit in your car and do this. Or maybe sit at your place of work and do this. Or maybe sit in your school and do this. Because what's the worst that could happen? Somebody asks you a question what you're doing, and then you have the opportunity to show the love of Christ and explain to them the testimony of what he's done when you did this. And then what happens? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. And then maybe they ask more questions. And then maybe they begin to understand a God that desires this over everything else. He just asks for your surrender, and in return, you get everything. What if we showed love from a position of survival over expectation? What if we actually acted like we could not live without the love of God? Instead of, we expect it. Kevin, you're supposed to show me love. We're brothers. Every time I encounter you, I expect you to give me that hug. It's an expectation, Kevin. I expect you to do that. Why do I think that? I'm not owed that. I'm not owed the love of any of y'all. But see, what's amazing is that what would it look like if I changed my heart posture to go, you know what, the reason that John says he loves me is because without it, we can't survive. Is because without it, when he's down, I won't be up. Because we'll both be empty. Because we didn't pour in when we needed it. Because our overflow was kept in a reserve, and then it faded, and then it rotted, and then we just had to throw it away. Because how many of you know that complacency doesn't breed anything good? What if we had faith that God is the one who is in the breath we either expel or receive? What if every word that left your lips you thought, would God say this? What if every time you said something, would you say, is there biblical truth in what I'm saying? Now, I understand that what I'm asking for you to think about is a tall order. And I understand that in our humanity, me included, I don't win at this as often as I would like to. But my encouragement is you are about to go into a season where you're going to be around more people that you care about, that maybe you know or don't know, than ever in the year. Potentially that's the case for you. What if we put this to practice starting now? What would it look like? What if you had a conversation at the Thanksgiving table that wasn't about politics, that wasn't about finances, that wasn't about just the family drama? What if? What if that black sheep on the outside that's got to sit over here and be cautious and not sure if they can receive anything or contribute anything to the conversation finally felt someone love them in a way that they've never known before? And if you are that person, can I challenge you? Maybe you're the person that needs to start. Because maybe God set you aside in your assumed failure to show victory to everybody else. God doesn't produce failures. God takes broken people and makes beautiful mosaics. You are a perfect work of art in his eyes.